Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Here's a friend that doesn't visit too often. Launched in 2014 and made in only 99 pieces. You're looking at the F.P Journe Chronometre Bleu Byblos. Designed as a tribute to both the location and the order of the Beirut Journe boutique, Journe's 10th. This watch features the Sun of the Orient over an open dial, the first such dial featured on a Journe watch. And we even have the 10th letter of the Phoenician alphabet, Yod, which is pronounced J. So you have F.P Journe with Yod in there, replacing the J, and Byblos, traditionally a Phoenician port, an ancient port, just north of present-day Beirut, paying tribute to the location of Journe's 10th boutique. So the Byblos right here is mechanically identical to the Chronometre Bleu, but distinct in a lot of aesthetic and substantive ways. So let's take a quick look at the size. You're familiar with this tantalum case, a blue-gray metal with an otherworldly shade and a precious metal heft, accentuated by the fact that the case surrounds a solid gold movement. It's 39 millimeters in diameter. As I measure it, you can see thin in profile, 8.7 millimeters. And from lug tip to lug tip, 45.9 with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Taking a look at the watch on my wrist, it wears beautifully. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, but I could recommend this for a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. I've always looked at the Chronometre Bleu as a unisex option, and I continue to hold that opinion. It's flat and its bezel is domed, which allows a dress cuff to easily ramp up and over the edge, but not being a precious metal strictly speaking, this doesn't read as dressy as the platinum and rose gold pieces that populate the Journe dress watch catalog. Over the top, which always exaggerates the width of the watch, you can see I still have plenty of clearance on either side, and down the barrel really pounding home just how compact this watch is. The lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist. The strap is specific to the model. It's got a lovely sunny honey brown to it. Combination of large and medium rectangular scale alligator leather. It has a monotone stitch, curved spring bars that allow the lugs to be drilled close to the case, and yet with no impediment to the motion of the strap due to the curvature of the spring bar. There's a folded edge to the strap, and then on the bottom you can see small round scale alligator on the bottom. The idea behind having gator on both sides is for a few $100s more, you create a much longer lasting strap, and this watch certainly deserves it. Pull tab spring bars, you can see they're used to remove the strap from the case with just your fingernail. F.P Journe, he invented and made it. That's on all of his watches. And boy, was he inventive here. This watch even includes a matching tantalum pin buckle. I can count on one hand how many of these I've seen since I've been in the watch space. Tantalum pin buckles, as tough to create as tantalum cases. When I went to Journe's case factory, Boîtier de Genève, in late 2017, I was allowed to see just about everything, including dials being made on the dial side of the house for other competing brands that I'm not allowed to tell you about. And I was allowed to see prototypes of things not yet released by Journe. What I was not allowed to see was the polishing of tantalum. Apparently someone at the factory had showed a journalist before my visit. The boss was not happy. So I didn't get to see how Journe actually achieves this polish. Now you can see there are little marks of wear here on the bezel. Leave it like that. Don't touch it. It's always best for it to be original and undilute. So all of the character lines and the definition and the mass of the metal are uncut by the refinisher's wheel. Now, tantalum is a weighty thing, and like platinum, it is incredibly difficult to finish. It has a tendency to smear, become porous, and wear out tools. That is why so few companies make tantalum watches. Now, Journe makes the dial, the case, and the movement in-house. Full vertical integration, so he's got the ability to do this without spending a fortune and having to charge $200,000 for the watch. We have Journe's famous double dimple knurled crown, probably the most famous unsigned crown in the business. And while this does have some hallmarks of the Chronometre Bleu, this is actually a very different dial. Now, what it keeps from the Chronometre Bleu is the combination of off-white or cream-colored printing and hands with a blue dial base. But if you look at this blue, this is actually an opaque blue. This is not the translucent blue from the Chronometre Bleu, which is translucent and sits on a black polished German silver base. This is completely opaque, so it's more like the lacquer blue on the Rolex Smurf, if you can think of that as a comparison. Now, the dial has a cut pattern, which is cool, because the dial is also the base plate of the movement here. And then we've got a combination of bridges, plates, the keyless works, which includes the set lever, the yoke, the set lever spring. You've got the winding pinion, the crown wheel, and then an intermediate wheel leading up to the minute wheel pinion, the hour wheel, and under all of that is the cannon pinion. And this is all finished to a standard that is distinctive on this watch, because normally you don't get to see these parts on a Journe watch. We still have small seconds. You can see there's a combination of different sizes of engine turning. There's brushing or satination across the surfaces of all these components. And if you look carefully, you can see that they've also been beveled on their sides. So extra attention here paid to parts that Journe generally doesn't finish or make visible to this extent. You can see Byblos as well as F.P Journe with Yod replacing the J. Flip it all over, and you can see on this side we have Chronometre Byblos, and that Byblos is actually on the base plate, so that makes this movement, which is otherwise a standard caliber 1304, distinct for the model. And taking a quick look, it's not a secret, tantalum, Chronometre Bleu Byblos, individually numbered out of 99. That we have the famed Journe Holt head screws designed to prevent amateur watchmakers from testing their hand. All this 30 meters water resistant to movement, base plates, bridges, all 18 karat rose gold. And you can see several different finishes. We have stripes across the bridges. We have bevels on their flanks. We have a sort of a grandoche or barleycorn pattern surrounding the twin barrels in parallel, which provide a massive wave of torque to drive the escapement, beaten away at 3 hertz. 6 position adjusted, one more than a standard chronometer, with a free sprung balance of large mass. And then if you look, you can actually not really see the transmission mechanism between the twin barrels and the escapement. That's because it actually runs under the dial side. So taking a quick look, you can see that we've got the 4th wheel right here driving the seconds. You can see how they line up perfectly like that. And then the transmission mechanism is hidden, but it allows us to have this big open gulf between the barrels and the escapement. Take a look at the escapement. You can see the anchor and the escape wheel are both polished. That's a nice touch. And then all screw heads are polished. We've got satination on the barrels. We've also got solarization on the crown wheel core and this lovely pocket watch inspired mirror finished click and click spring all in one. 6 position adjustment, one more than a standard COSC chronometer. Journe calls this watch chronometre, but he's not certified with COSC or Time Lab. He says that his standards in-house surpass those, and anecdotally I have put these on timing machines and I have found that to be justified. Lots to love here. So a sporty dress watch, 30 meters water resistant. You don't want to swim with it even if you are along the beautiful Lebanese Mediterranean coast. All the same, a wonderful keepsake if you've ever been to that part of the world, are from that part of the world, or simply treasure the romance of ancient history. And this watch is rife with all kinds of history. 56 hours of power reserves. The twin barrels here are more for a flat and massive wave of torque to keep the timing consistent than for a really long power reserve, but putting them in parallel means that this has an enormous amount of motive force behind it. And then you can see Journe not only does finish on a movement, which I would say is good but not high artisanal here, but architecture, Journe does a great job, as we have this double barrel bridge, a gulf, and then separate cocks for the 4th wheel, escape wheel, and the balance, just really nicely designed. And you can see the locating pegs to place the balance cock on the base plate. Those have been polished on their head, and you can see that here as well. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.